Hello, and welcome to Podcasting and Pedagogy, practice-based evidence in health and human sciences. My name is Quinn Duclos, and I'll be your host. Briefly, I'd like to describe the scholarship that we'll be talking about. In fall of 2020, I was the instructor of a personal health class, HEA 201. What I did was hosted a podcast with my students. Each podcast, I had two students, and for one of the podcasts, I included a field expert in the podcast. Two of the examples that we're going to be using today are what is health and systems and framing. Those episodes were actually two of the episodes that got a lot of positive feedback from my students. Chin and colleagues have actually shown that feedback from students in their cohort suggests that visual aids are preferred for some of the students as opposed to just the audio files. We want to talk about now adding to the co-constructing of an educational experience. How do we co-construct this educational experience so that it benefits our distance learners? We know that more online and hybrid classes are happening across the university, and we know that there are 4 degree programs in health and human sciences that are completely online. So what we want to do is directly and creatively engage these students within disciplinary and interdisciplinary conversation. And the way that we do that is by pulling them in, having that intimate conversation around these subjects. We can scaffold mentoring. Scaffolding mentoring is something that happens within the podcast, not only for myself to the student, but student to student. Because of the relational nature and the closeness of the podcast, the students can feel a sense of community and camaraderie with their classmates. And most importantly, we want to embrace methods that are asynchronous and portable. And the reason for that is because people are not static. People are driving or cooking or cleaning, and not everyone can sit down in front of a computer for a certain amount of time. Podcasting offers that. So that begs the question, why should people care? Well, it works. Chin and colleagues used podcasts as a methodology with undergraduate medical education. And what their participants did was listen to these podcasts while driving, completing chores, or exercising. So these are asynchronous activities, and they are mobile activities. They're not just sitting in front of their computer taking notes. In fact, only one person in their study actually sat in front of their computer and took notes while listening to the podcast. These can be easily implemented into existing courses, and that's because many instructors already record videos for course instruction. I know that I do, I know that my colleagues do, but what's the next logical step? And that's to include students into recordings, which requires little extra effort. All you have to do is ask for volunteers. So how does this fit into our field? Well, we want to create the conditions for strong and effective learning online. So what we need to do is resist recreating what we do in person online, which tends to create more work for the online student. The future of podcasts in the distance classroom must include FERPA considerations. Student privacy is a must in our classrooms, and especially if we are using the voices and the names of students in our podcasts, we will need to obtain their consent if we are to distribute them. Repository development is something that is interesting as a concept. We want to think about, can we keep these podcasts for future use, or will they be at the discretion of the professor whose intellectual property they are? And course description applications. This is my favorite in particular. I really love the idea of taking a 2 or 3 minute clip of a podcast that is for a class. And instead of just having the written description of the course, a student could go to the course search system and listen to a podcast clip. So to wrap up, UNCG is trending towards an online instruction. Some of the research has shown how to improve the existing methods, making it more asynchronous and mobile. And this is an innovative way to engage students in educational co-construction. And most importantly, my students loved it. And if my students loved it, then I'm going to think it's a great idea. Thank you very much. I'm Quinn Duclos, and have a great rest of your day.